Okay, here we go. We have a lot of Zoan fruits to discuss, and we only have 1 month to do it. You heard that angry Fleet Admiral guy the other day. We gotta get on this. All right, everybody, pick up your biology textbooks at once. Yeah. It just shatters the entire desk immediately. Okay. Animal facts take 2. We're going to do this methodically. I have a whole thing of organization ready to go. All right. How does Oda classify the Zoan fruits? From my best understanding, from my research and the examples in the story, he seems to prefer to use the order of animals, okay? So if you know anything about biological taxonomy, here's a nice little handy little grid and the pyramid that shows you that the kingdom is at the very top, and then it goes down through phylum and class and order and family and then genus and then species and all that kind of stuff, right? It seems like he goes up to around the order of animals. A good example of this is the Off Zoans. A giraffe and a bison are both in the ox fruit category because they are both members of the order of Artiodactyla, which are the even-toed ungulates. Ungulates, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And then we have horses that are like zebras and like, you know, actual like riding horses and things like that. And they are the odd-toed ungulates. And it seems like the even-toed ones go in the ox category and the odd-toed go in the horse category, right? So I think Oda is, in one part, not taking this too seriously. He's just kind of like generalizing it like, yeah, that's good enough, okay? So a lot of times he will give that overarching category, like ox fruit model giraffe or dog fruit model dachshund or whatever, right? However, there are a few of these one-off zones that we are going to be discussing today. Fruits that either do not have this overarching categorization. For example, Miss Merry Christmas's mole fruit is just the mole fruit. Pomsky just has the Rocco no Mi, which is, it means sea otter in Japanese, right? There's no like category to supersede it, then mole fruit, or then Rocco no Mi. It is just, that's the fruit. Smiley is an exception with this. Smiley has the salamander fruit model axolotl, but Smiley is the only one that has the axolotl fruit. Well, he did. He's dead now. Stussy is the only one in the canon of the story to have the bat Zoan. All right, Patrick Redfield had another one, but that was a video game, and we're not talking about non-canon stuff here, okay? So, with that being said, 6 characters that we're going to be discussing today that have these one-off zones. We have Drophy, Minokoala, Peckhams, Smiley, Stussy, and Pomsky. About Minokoala, who was one of the demon guards at Impel Down, we actually technically don't know a single one of their devil fruits. We know they're awakened Zoans, but we don't know the actual names of their fruits. Some of them are easier than others. I had to do a little bit of sleuthing for that one, but I think I've come to a conclusion that'll make everybody happy. And there's a reason that only Minokoala is being discussed today in the one-off zones, all right? We'll get to the other ones when we get to them, all right? So, yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Let's talk about Drophy, Miss Merry Christmas, member of Baroque Works, teamed up with Mr. 4. She had the power of the Mogura no Mi, meaning she could transform into Katakuri's trident. A very powerful devil fruit ability, I must say. It was a mythical variant. Now, can you imagine if there was a type of devil fruit that allowed you to just turn into an object, kind of being used like a weapon in a Soul Eater or something? That sounds actually really neat. I would have liked that concept. 4th type of devil fruit. But now, yeah, she turns into a mole, and she utilizes this ability with a technique called mole swimming, where she jumps into the sands of Alabasta, probably could be just the normal earth as well, and kind of burrows around and grabs people and drags them down to trap them, or grab their feet and then run them straight into Mr. 4's giant bat, his 4-ton bat, so there was like some combo attacks that they kind of had there. She also just came out with her massive claws and just smacked Usopp upside the face, called Mole Banana, because the claws of a mole kind of look like a banana. Now, astute viewers of One Piece will be aware that she didn't have the mole fruit in the 4Kids dub. She had the groundhog fruit, allowing her to know exactly if there was going to be 6 more weeks of winter or not, because of the weird tradition that actually started in Pennsylvania. If you've never heard of Groundhog Day, look it up. It's a little weird. It's in a little town called Punxsutawney. It's really not that far from here. Oddly enough, I've never been to the festival before, even though I live pretty close to it. But yeah, it's interesting. Good old Punxsutawney Phil. Yeah, but no, she's not a groundhog. She's a mole. And just for curiosity's sake, I wanted to look up, okay, moles. What animals are they related to? What category would it be in, right? Like, so moles belong to the order of Eulapotlia? Eulapotlia? I do not know how to say biological taxonomical classification terms, so we're going to be relying on subtitles a lot for this. Anyway, this is the same order that includes shrews and all of the true insectivores. So moles and shrews and hedgehogs are included in this. Hey, she's related to Sonic. Who would have guessed, right? So I'm thinking maybe shrew fruit, model mole. That could be an option there. Or maybe the fact that she doesn't have an overarching category, then like a superset before her name just means that maybe this is the only fruit of that classification that exists. If we're going along with the idea that Vegapunk proposed, that it's human desire that leads to devil fruits being created, maybe there was somebody out there that really wanted to be a mole and like dig underground, and that makes sense. That sounds pretty cool. But also at the same time didn't want to be a hedgehog. Not a lot of Sonic fans in One Piece. You know, that's different from our world, because I can tell you there's lots of people that are fans of Sonic in our world. I have never played a Sonic game. Not once in my entire life. Anyway, so, yeah, I'm thinking a shrew fruit, like overarching, could work for her. Moles are also blind. I don't think she goes blind. It's one of those things with Zoans where you don't really seem to receive, like, all of the negative aspects the animal will have, because, you know, they have very poor eyesight, because they spend most of their lives underground and just digging around and eating bugs and things like that, right? So, yeah, she never mentioned during Alabasta, like, when I go into this form, I'm completely blind and I can't see anything. You know, it didn't seem to really be the case there, okay? So, yeah, you get all of the strengths and benefits of the animal without all of their weaknesses. Although sometimes you'll inherit some interesting quirky things about the animals, but honestly, that's more about smiles than nothing else. You know, sometimes the smile fruit users will have these weird things because of the ways that their animals manifest on their body, but other than that, regular Zoan fruit users don't. So that's the Mogura Nomi. Now, a couple of other things that I'm going to try to tackle with each and every one of these Zoan entries is, we're not going to go into awakenings too much, because the basic idea of an awakening is you kind of end up looking like one of the demon guards if you go feral. Like, you just give over to your animal instincts and, like, the fruit kind of subsumes your personality. Or you could become controlled and awakened, in which you get, like, the ribbon around you like Lucci and Kaku did, and they were able to, like, maintain their sense of self. But other than that, the actual appearance doesn't change all that much. You know, like Lucci's became more streamlined. Kaku's awakened giraffe honestly didn't really change at all except for the ribbon around him, right? But yeah, that's the general idea. So I'm not going to go too much into that. But I am going to try to discuss whether or not we saw their full animal forms or not. So in the case with Drophy, we never saw her full mole form, okay? She never went full mole. We've only seen her in her hybrid form, all right? So I'll try to mention that as we go about it there. Also, before we go on to the next devil fruit, I just want to say, moles are awesome animals. Look at them. They're just little guys that dig around in the ground with their giant paws and their big nails, and they have like little tiny beady eyes. Moles are nice. You know, I've always heard people saying that they're pests, you know, because they dig up gardens and things like that. You know what? I have a garden. I have a pepper garden, in fact, and I would not mind if I tended my garden and planted all my peppers and some moles came around and dug them all up. That's fine. That's their dirt. They can do whatever they want with it. You guys are awesome. All right, so moving on. We now have Minokoala, who's one of the demon guards at Impel Down. All right, so I'm going to go really quickly just through other demon guards just so we understand we're all on the same page here, okay? There's 5 of them. Minokoala got added post-time skip, okay? So there's 5 demon guards right now. Some of them are very easy to categorize. For example, Minokoala is a breed of dog. So dog fruit, model Chihuahua, no problem. Minotaurus is clearly a cow or a bull. So ox fruit, model cow. Perfect. Fine. Good. Speaking of, Minotaurus, despite being a very ancillary character to the entire situation in Impel Down, and because of them being demon guards and having lost their sense of personality, they don't really do much other than just, like, fight good. Minotaurus holds a special place for me in terms of One Piece nostalgia, because the very first chapter of One Piece that I started reading weekly, every single week reliably, all the way up till now when I'm reviewing it, was the chapter where Minotauros first appeared, and the chapter was titled Minotauros. I remember that. It was like 2009 it came out. I was a sophomore in high school, and ever since Minotauros first appeared during the Impel Down arc, I've been reading One Piece every week ever since. So rock on, Minotauros. Anyway, we now have 3 remaining ones. Mino Zebra, pretty simple. Zebras are related to horses. They both belong to Equidae, the order of Equidae. So it would be horse fruit, model zebra. I don't think anybody would complain too much about that. Then we have rhinoceros and koala. Rhinoceroses are part of Perissodactylia, the same order that horses are part of, and they are odd-toed ungulates. So I'm going to put the rhinoceros in that category. Horse fruit, model rhinoceros. The horse fruits are where we're going to discuss those ones, okay? And for those of you that might be questioning, hey, Matt, I think that's a bit of a stretch. A rhinoceros doesn't really look like a horse or a zebra. And to that I would say it looks about as much as a horse as an giraffe looks like a bison. And they're both in the ox categories. So I'm going to go with that, all right? But then we get to koala. Not this koala. This koala. The battle-ready koala. With a pouch of eucalyptus leaves at his side, ready to snack down whenever he needs. So koalas are marsupials, along with wombats and wallabies and kangaroos and a bunch of other things that live in Australia, mate. Although possums, the only marsupial that live in North America. And I've seen some possums before, and they're actually really misunderstood animals. They're really chill. Don't piss them off, but they're really chill. And the whole thing of being scared to death and they lock up, that's involuntary. So don't go around and scare possums. It's just not very nice. So anyway, yeah, marsupials. And if we're not counting smiles, because smiles are like an artificial thing, there are no other devil fruits in One Piece. There are no other Zoans that turn you into a marsupial. Minokoala has the only one. So therefore, Minokoala is part of the one-off category today. I put way too much research into this one thing here. So yeah, marsupial devil fruit. Model koala. Also including wombats, wallabies, possums, and kangaroos. Mate. So yeah, koalas, pretty neat. They're not bears. We call them koala bears, but that's a misnomer. Also, interestingly enough, there's no bear fruits. Once again, outside of the smiles and Ragnar from One Piece D&D, right? So yeah, there's no bear fruits in One Piece, so either or it would still be in the one-off category. But they are not bears, but they're pretty cool. And we do not actually get to see Minokoala in the human form. We only see them in the hybrid form that they seem to be stuck in whenever they awaken. They go over to their feral instincts and maintain their half of their body as koala, and then just like a little part. Actually, it's more than half. I think their legs as well are also part of the animal, and it's just kind of like their midriff. You can see their abs. That's the only part that's still human. Their abs, and everything else is animal, right? So, yeah, koalas are pretty neat, though, and they eat eucalyptus leaves. So yeah, you definitely don't want to piss them off. They definitely fall in the category of, aw, so adorable, look at the little koala in the tree. You piss it off, it'll rip your face off kind of situation, okay? And that's why it makes a great demon guard. It has brass knuckles. He just puts on brass knuckles. Imagine walking up to a koala. The koala just looks at you dead in the eye, pulls a freaking pair of brass knuckles, knuckle dusters, out of its pouch, and is just... keep walking. Like, okay, shit. Every marsupial in the world just has, like, weapons. Like the kangaroo just, like, pulls out, like, a bazooka or something and just attacks you with it. There you go. But, yeah, that's Minokoala. Awakened Demon Guard. Don't know much more about him. Doesn't really have much of a personality because his mind has become one with the koala. All right, who's next? We have Peckhams. Now, Peckhams is cool because he has a devil fruit that we've only seen used once, and there was another time it was used, but we don't really see it. It was kind of mentioned after the fact. Peckhams is a mink that has electro, and he can go into Sulong and everything, so we see that mainly during Whole Cake Island, during the latter stages of that, but he also has the power of the Kame Kame no Mi. He could turn into a turtle. And also, the closest character in this story to use the Kamehameha. So we need to see Peckhams again so he can do that. But honestly, no. The only time he uses this ability is to literally hide in his shell. he's a lion guy that can turn into a turtle, and we haven't even seen this utilized all that much. When Caribou pulled out his gun and started to fire at him, he turned into a turtle and just went into his shell and had perfect iron defense. He used withdrawal from Pokemon to protect himself, and then he popped out of his shell and beat the shit out of Caribou. Then later on, when Beiji did the same thing and Gatling gunned him from behind, he was mentioned later, oh, I was able to activate my Devil Fruit at like the last minute, or maybe he was already in his hybrid form. We really wouldn't have noticed because his clothing might have covered up his shell, and that defended him from the barrage of gunfire, okay? So technically, I guess we have seen his full animal form, but only when he's in his shell. So yeah, that's it. I don't think we've seen the hybrid form yet. I believe this is the full form of his turtle Zoan. Okay, so turtles are kind of, they're very old evolutionarily. They haven't changed all that much in several million years. Like, they're still pretty much like the same they were back in the days of like the dinosaurs and things like that. Same thing with like the crocodilians, right? By the way, I will mention now, if anybody out there is like an actual biology student or professor or teacher or anything, and I get anything wrong, please, for the love of God, grade my homework and correct me on this shit, okay? Please. All right? Because I love to learn stuff. Why do you think I bought a giant book of biology? This wasn't for the video. I just like to learn shit. Okay. So yeah, turtles are part of the order of Testudines. Testudines. Yeah, okay. We're just going to go with that. And from what I can see, this is the order of turtle. This is turtle order, okay? Because they're all just hanging out there. We got freshwater turtles. We got sea turtles, right? We got the tortoises. They're all just hanging out in this order, and that's what they are. So if anything else, honestly, Peckhams' Zoan should be turtle fruit, like model box turtle or something like that. There could be a turtle fruit model sea turtle. You know, something like that would probably work better as the superset of the category, and then the actual species of turtle comes later. Sort of like what Oda does with the dogs, dog fruit, and then the model is the specific breed of dog, or like dog fruit model wolf for Jabra, right? Or I guess there'd be a dog fruit model fox, although we've yet to see that exactly. We've seen the mythical zone nine-tail fox, but not just normal like red fox or something like that, right? So yeah, Peckhams, just if you've ever seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, he's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, except he's also part lion. Yeah. Honestly, I feel like this fruit was extremely underutilized. He could have went Sulong with Electro with a turtle shell. He would have kicked ass. But I honestly think Oda sort of forgot about his Devil Fruit ability a couple of times during that arc, okay? Because he just didn't really use it all that much. Or maybe it really just doesn't have a lot of combat capabilities. It's more of like a purely defensive Zoan in that regard. I don't know. Turtle fruit model snapping turtle will probably fuck you up, I would assume, because those things are big jaws, like rip you apart, really. So, yeah, that's Peckhams' turtle fruit, his turtley fruit. Okay, next up, we have Smiley's Axolotl Zoan. Now, this is a weird one because axolotls are purely aquatic. There's a few other animals out there that are represented in Zoans that are like partly aquatic, turtles, for example. But yeah, this is the only one that is fully aquatic, and yet Smiley was able to walk around a frozen desert, which frozen polar desert, I should say. And you'd think that would harm an axolotl, being a completely aquatic salamander, but no, it's fine. Smiley was okay till it ate the giant piece of candy and blew up. Caesar was a dick. Caesar made me feel bad for just a congealed pile of goo. Caesar was awful as a pet owner. Okay. Anyway, Smiley is interesting because he actually has the superset. He has Salamander fruit model axolotl, implying there are other salamander fruits out there. We just haven't seen them yet. Oda might reveal them later on, but for right now, as of recording, December 3rd, 2025, there's only one member of the salamander fruit. So axolotls are pretty sweet. Pretty neat little guys. They just kind of swim along there. Smiley, being an axolotl, honestly didn't really do anything in terms of there was the function of the fact it was made out of congealed gas weapon from the previous attack that Caesar had done, and so just the fact he was dripping toxic sludge everywhere was the main threat of Smiley. It wasn't the fact he was an axolotl. It was the fact that he was dripping super caustic toxic poison gas. All right. And then finally served as the delivery device for the Country of Death, the Shinokuni attack that was utilized and petrified everybody on the island, which didn't even turn out to be all that deadly at the end of the day. All those people were gathering around to try to buy the gas weapon off of Caesar, and it turns out that even if you get hit by this stuff, you don't really die right away. You're going to be perfectly preserved for at least a couple hours, and you can be saved. Yeah, if you actually look at it, Caesar's gas weapons actually did a really shitty job of killing people. I think it's because Caesar was super sadistic, and he was really focusing on making people suffer as much as possible. He literally made a gas called kill gas that he tried to use on the minks, and it's yes, the kill gas. One inhale, and you'll die in 48 hours. It's okay, I'm pretty sure you could make a gas that kills you within seconds. I could, but where's the fun in that? I will make a gas that I'll blow up my own pet in order to deliver, and then the entire island will be covered, and then petrify you, and you'll suffocate. Within a few hours? You could crack them open, and they'll be perfectly fine after the fact. Yeah, so, Caesar's just awful at what he does for a whole number of different reasons. Okay, so yeah, the fact that it's purely aquatic, though, doesn't really seem to bother Smiley all that much. He's walking around not just on land and in the air, but also in the middle of a blizzard, and doesn't seem perturbed by that or uncomfortable in any way. Fun fact, because Smiley's dead, well, not so fun fact, but the fruit actually still exists. It got served as an example for Oda to show devil fruit recycling. So Smiley blows up, and a random apple in one of the nearby sleds gets turned into the salamander fruit model axolotl. So one of the few devil fruits we actually get to see in the story existing, right? Now, what happened to it? It immediately got covered by the Shinokuni gas at Punk Hazard, and it's still there. No one's gonna go back for that thing. And listen, I know salamanders are cool. They are part of the order of Urodela, that one's relatively easy, I guess, to say. So there's probably others out there. But yeah, ain't nobody going back for that devil fruit. I don't think there's anybody out there in the world that wants to be an axolotl enough that they're going to go back onto Punk Hazard and just wander out into an empty blizzard and then chisel down through several feet of the gas, the congealed petrification gas, that shell, and then find that one sled, and then find that one bag of apples, and then find the axolotl fruit in that bag of apples. Nobody wants to be an axolotl that fucking bad, okay? Maybe you do. I don't know. Maybe you would make the trip. It's out there. It's still waiting for you. Okay. Next up, we have Stussy, the clone of Miss Buckingham Stussy. We just have Stussy, and she has the power of the Bat Zoan. Is it Bat model vampire bat? Let me just check on that really quick here. Yeah, no, it's just Bato no Mi. It's just that. I guess you could say vampire bat because she sucks the blood. Bleh. But yeah, so bats are part of the order of Chiroptera, and these are all winged mammals. So there's flying foxes, and then there's bats as well. And we did a whole animal facts on bats, so you should remember that. We just refer to all the bat episodes of that, I guess. So yeah, her hybrid form, she grows wings and fangs and nothing else. I think she can kind of see in echolocation. I think in the anime they do that a little bit, where she has it's not really echolocation, it's more like thermal vision she has in the anime. But echolocation would make more sense there, because that's how bats can communicate. Well, at least not all bats do that. There's macro bats and micro bats. There's mega bats and micro bats. There's bigger bats, and then there's really, really little tiny guys, right? And I think only some of them communicate with echolocation. Not all of them do that, right? But yeah, so I guess that's her hybrid form. Also, keep in mind, just like how Chopper made the Rumble Ball, and Black Maria also had a drug that allowed her to control her hybrid, sometimes we see Devil Fruit users using their abilities and their hybrids don't all line up exactly. Oda's example or excuse for that is just drugs. It's just like, oh yeah, that, Black Maria's Rosa Magalia Gravagelli, her spider Zoan, it didn't like look the same as all the other Zoans in their hybrids. Yeah, drugs. She's on drugs. That's the one that does it, right? Same thing with Chopper, right? So yeah, I think it's fine. It's hybrid that just gives her the wings and the fangs. It doesn't make her get like a bat nose or her eyes or grow fur all over her body or anything like that. And if she did turn into an actual bat, I believe the bat would be huge. It'd be like a really big bat, like 6 or 7 feet tall, probably, with the way most Zoans work. So yeah, she's able to bite people, and then biting them also seems to knock them out. So it has the effect of like, some kind of anesthetic or something. That actually could be drugs, because remember, Stussy was a clone born of Mads. I guess Vegapunk is her father, so she actually could have maybe experimented with some kind of drug to like, because I don't think bats like, once again, biology majors can help me on this. I don't think bats inject venom into their prey. It could just be also from the blood loss. She could just be sucking your blood enough that you're just like, ugh, and you just pass out that way. But I imagine in order to do that with like Lucci and Kaku, she would have to like suck a lot of blood out of them, right, in order for them to make them, especially those are strong dudes, and they like to make them pass out, and it really does seem like she bites you and you pass out like immediately, like it is some kind of like anesthetic that she's like pumping into you, or some kind of venom or something. I don't know. So yeah, that could be just a feature of the Bat Zone, or it could be her drugs. Whichever, however, that's whatever. We've yet to see the full animal form, but we've seen the hybrid. Okay, that's it. I've actually made a whole discussion about Stussy, and in that discussion, I kind of tackle the Bat Zone. It's one of those things like, did I talk more about her character, or did I talk more about her Devil Fruit? It was more about her character. We actually didn't find out she actually had the Bat Zone until during an SBS later, and there was a lot of discussions over whether or not she actually had the mythical vampire fruit, the one that Patrick Redfield had during the video game, Unlimited World Red, I think it was. So yeah, no, it's not a mythical, it's just an ordinary Bat Zone. So there's that. And then finally, we have the last of the one-off zones. We have Pomsky, one of the vice admirals that attacked Egghead, and he has the power of the Rocco no Mi. Rocco's modern life. No, it's the sea otter Zoan. So he turns into an otter. We've yet to see the full otter form, but we've seen the hybrid form where his face turns into that of an otter, and he also swings around a giant polearm weapon with a seashell on the end of it called the Rocco Hammer. Bam! Hits you really hard, because otters collect seashells and collect rocks and things like that, and will use the rocks. Like, one otter will actually like collect a rock, and it'll be their special rock that they'll have the rest of their lives, and they'll use it as a tool to break open shells and mollusks and eat them, right? That's pretty cool. Otters are interesting because the order that they are actually part of are just the carnivore order. Now, this includes a bunch of different animals. For example, like jaguars and panthers are part of the order of carnivores, but then later on they're also cats, and so Oda categorizes them as cats. This is what I mean. Sometimes Oda will categorize everybody under the order, and sometimes a little bit more specific, maybe under the family or the subfamily or the tribe or the genus or something like that, right? So I went one step further with the otters, and Mustelids is the family that otters are part of, but also weasels and badgers. Okay, they're all kind of related in that one family. So I don't know why I'm going with the preference for weasels, but I'm just going to go with Weasel Fruit, model sea otter. I don't know why. It could have just easily have been Badger Fruit, model sea otter, or Otter Fruit, and then model Badger later. I don't think that would work, though, right? But yeah, it is just the Rocco no Mi. Yeah. So, there we go. There's all the one-off zones. One good thing with the idea of talking about every zone in the story is because most of them just turn you into animals. I'll just talk a little bit about the way they use the fruit in the story. Like, Pomsky just has a big hammer he hits you with that's in the shape of a seashell. That's it. That's all, right? And then we could talk a little bit about facts about the animal, like I did with the little stone thing. And then after that, I mean, we're pretty much done, right? Okay. And so I got to get through a lot of these. Okay. I have a whole list over here, right? So there's 46 overall, and I've just tackled 6 in this video. So we only have 40 left. And like 28 days left in December. So we got to get moving. We got to get moving. So with the one-offs now being done, we are now going to move on to in order in the story that they are being introduced. So the very first Zoan ever shown in the story was Dalton. Dalton has the power of the Ox Fruit model bison. So we're going to be talking about all of the Ox Fruits in the next video. We're going to tackle Dalton, and then we're also going to talk about Kaku's giraffe Zoan, and then also Minotaurus, who has the cow or the bull Zoan. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about next time, and then we'll move on to the birds, and then the dogs, and then the horses, and then the cats, and then the elephants, and then the dinosaurs, and then a side video about Marco's Phoenix Fruit, and then Sengoku's Buddha, and then the bug Zoans, and then Orochi's Zoan, and then Yamato's mythical Zoan, and then all of the Gorosei's yokai forms, and then Killingham, and then we'll be done. There's the order. All right. Later, everybody. Teching signing out.